Hey you guys, what's up and welcome back to Toe Tags Metal Reviews, and today we're getting our first impressions of the new releases from P.O.D, Gothminister, and Dååth. So this is another one of those new release days where none of the releases are like the others. They're all very different, genre-wise, style-wise, just everything's completely different about them.
It's an absolutely different experience for all three of the records.
Exactly. So I want to get Veritas by P.O.D out of the way because it, to me, was one of the most unpleasant first impression listening experiences I've had in a long time. And I don't want to hate on a band. I know there's fans of this band, there's people that like this style and like this vibe and all that stuff. And at one point of my life, I was a P.O.D fan. When these guys first bursted onto the scene and nu metal was vibing and nu metal was the big thing, yeah, there was a couple songs that I liked. I've never owned an album, but I had their songs on a couple mixed CDs or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So there was a point where I would consider myself like a semi-P.O.D fan. That time is long gone. And I was actually curious when I found out this album was coming out, what is it gonna sound like? Is it gonna bring me back? Is it gonna sound new? Is it gonna sound different? It sounds pretty much exactly how I remember them sounding, but no nostalgia kick. Like a lot of the times I'll get a nostalgia kick and it'll bring me back and I'll go, oh yeah, I remember this from my youth and this is the kind of stuff. I didn't get that at all. It's like just basically rap metal, is putting it simply.
It's like really the hallmark of a lot of nu metal.
It's the hallmark of a lot of nu metal, yeah, just infusing genres like that. There's a couple features on this album. Randy Blythe is on the first song called Drop, and Tatiana Smalek is on track number 3, Afraid to Die.
Are they really there though?
I found both of these features to be pointless because...
Are they features or cameos?
I don't know what to call it, but they're supposed to be features. But I listened to the songs and I'm expecting to hear Randy start like screaming, and he didn't. He either did like a talking part or he did a clean part or something, and I'm like, okay, that's over, and I didn't really hear Randy at all.
Randy was there near the end. He did a little bit of screaming, kind of, but it's so like barely there and kind of in the background that it's like, why did you get Randy Blythe to feature on a song and barely do anything with him?
That's a botch to me.
Same with Tatiana. She did a bit of clean stuff, a little bit of harsh, which you could barely hear. And it's like, you got two amazing singers for features and you did nothing.
Yeah.
Why? There's a third one. I don't know who Cove Reber is from Dead American, but...
Yeah, never heard of it, yeah.
Yeah,
that's another thing. Like, so you have these icons, basically, featured on your album, and you botch it so badly that those songs aren't even worth listening to. That, to me, like, that's a dead album out the gate, and unfortunately. And I'm being a hater right now, and, you know, whatever, fuck you if you don't like it, to be honest, but there's people out there that will like this, and that's fine. All the power to them, but this was a bad album to me, and that's just my opinion. I got nothing else to say about it, sorry.
Well, I mean, I completely agree about the features. Like I said, when I was hearing them, I'm like, these are not features, these are cameos. I think that's a more accurate way to describe them, because I don't feel like these singers were featured in the song. A feature is like, we're featuring this guy, here he is, you know? Except he's barely there, and guess what? His name's Randy Blythe, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like they dropped the ball with those features. Features. That being said, I didn't feel as negatively towards this album as Vile did. Now this is a band I never really listened to. There's a collection of nu metal bands I didn't really get to check out when I was first getting into a lot of that kind of stuff. This was one of them. That being said, I generally enjoyed some of the harder stuff that they have. So like the first track, like Drop, which is the one with Randy cameoing on it, I didn't mind that song. It was fine. But the feature was just remove it. It's like it doesn't do anything. There's no point. But overall, I liked that it had the energy of the 90s, 2000s. Like it had that there. You could tell these guys were from that time. But for the first kind of half, I felt like, and it doesn't feel like they're trying to modernize their sound, but as it went on, I kind of felt like with some songs, it felt like they were trying to really step into like the modernized. This is kind of like almost stepping into a metalcore sound with a song like Lies We Tell Ourselves, which is kind of a late album ballad. kind of felt like they forced that song just to say, hey, we can be hip, but it's like, just be more true to yourself, because they've done that for some of the other songs on the record, it would seem. Like, it feels more genuine that way, so not huge on that song. The album's fine. I mean, I don't know if I would really come back to it much, but there was some cool stuff on it, I guess, but it wasn't, like, great, and I feel like the features were not features. Like, those could have been so much cooler, because they got such great singers for them, but
Yeah.
they dropped the ball a bit there.
Oh well. Let's talk about Pandemonium 2, The Battle of the Underworlds by Gothminister. So, Gothminister is a band we discovered back in 2022 when they released Pandemonium, the prequel to this. And we kind of just, I don't know if we did a first impressions on it or not, or if
We
covered
didn't.
it at all.
I remember we didn't cover it on the channel. I'm pretty sure you hit me up like, "Hey, check this out! Like, this is cool."
Yeah.
I listened to it. I'm like, "Wow, this is really cool!" Like,
Yeah.
liked it quite a bit. It was a fun album. So when I saw that they're making a Pandemonium 2, I'm like, "Wow, a sequel? Like, that's got to be good, right?"
Exactly. So we put it on our radar, and we were looking forward to checking it out. So we did, and I think it's a decent album. I think it's a few steps down from Pandemonium, and I didn't love Pandemonium. I didn't think it was amazing, but it had a few good songs on it that I thought were really good. This one, I feel like is very cookie cutter. It's very by the bones, by the numbers, and there's a lot of like very basic boots pants kind of beats.
Yeah.
Right. Some of the songs drag a little bit, like the intro track, which is the title track, Battle of the Underworlds. It's about 5.5 minutes long, and it feels way too long for what it is. There's a couple songs that are good, like track number 2, We Live Another Day, I thought was good, but it has these really weird transitions between the verse and the chorus. It
with the
just
drum
sounded
bells
off.
or whatever that
What
was.
was that?
Don't know.
It sounded
'cause
weird, right?
It sounded
I'm glad
like
it wasn't just me.
It kind of sounded like there was a tom fill. Kind of sounded like there was kick. Sounded like there was a blast beat. Like, what was that?
Yeah,
It was
it's
just here, chorus now.
Yeah, it's very awkward and kind of disjointed.
Yeah, it's just
weird.
yeah. I'm glad that you felt the same way, because I made
Yeah.
a note about that. Like, what was that?
Track number 6 is an interlude, 52 seconds, where you hear some like beast growling noises and stuff, and then there's some ambient music and stuff going on. And then track number 7 comes off of that. It's called I Will Drink Your Blood. It's probably the best sounding song on the album, but the more it went on, the less I was enjoying it. Like, it started off strong and then just started getting weak, which is awkward. There was also a bit of an awkward key change at the end, and I thought that was odd. Did you notice that too?
I noticed there was a key change. Yeah,
Yeah,
but the key change, I didn't mind it.
It just sounded awkward to me. It didn't sound like a clean key change like you would normally hear.
That's kind of probably part of why I didn't mind it, because I'm like, oh, I wasn't expecting that, and it doesn't feel like the cookie cutter brain dead key change, so I can enjoy that. Because when it's the cookie cutter brain dead, go up a half step, and it's like, oh my god. But with here, they did that, but it just, I don't know, it just worked out. I think it's just because the album doesn't really lend itself to sound like you said cookie cutter, but in terms of this album, it's not like a conventional sounding album to a degree.
Not necessarily, but it's just very simple on its surface.
Yeah, and I noticed like Static X kind of does that with some of their songs. It's a lot more kind of like simple than you would expect. I felt that way with this album. It's like, I think I wrote, what? Static X meets Marilyn Manson meets like Eurobeat or something.
Yeah.
Kind of like a mishmash of those three things.
I think this sounds like Bloody Hammers too, but a lot of people might not know who Bloody Hammers is.
I see where you're coming from with that. I feel like this is way more electronic though.
It is.
And I found that with this album, they decided to go further on the electronic route than they did on the original Pandemonium, which I do prefer the original Pandemonium. I thought it was better.
Yeah.
This album wasn't bad. I generally thought it was pretty good, but I did make an early note after the first few songs, like this percussion's very straightforward, and I wish there was a bit more. But on some songs there is more, and I like that. And I feel like on the original Pandemonium, the percussion was handled better. It just had more interesting stuff going on. So an example, One Dark Happy Nation, that one has more percussive variety on it. I feel like it's more interesting to listen to for the drums. There's one song, where is it? I Am the Devil. The main riff in that sounds a lot like Ride the Lightning. I don't know if you caught that.
No, didn't.
But if you hear it again, now after that I've said that, you'll probably hear it.
Probably, yeah.
So I thought that was pretty funny. Mono Stereo Creature that song does the weird blast beat, whatever kind of blah drum thing near the end, so I'm just like, okay, they did this again. Why'd they do this again? But that song overall I thought was pretty neat. Didn't mind that song. But overall, it was pretty good. I mean, not as good as the original, but not bad. Like, it's an album I could probably just put on and just like, here's some cool beats, grooves, whatever, something to groove with.
Just to finish my my thought, I was mentioning a track, and I wanted to continue off on that before we got kind of sidetracked a little bit. But after "I Will Drink Your Blood," there's actually another interlude. So it's a song that's piggybacked on both sides by interludes.
So weird.
And "Aftermath," the second interlude, I thought was actually pretty good. It's very cinematic. It's theatrical. It has more howling and stuff. So basically, it's kind of telling a story where it's like a beast. And then in the next song, you are the beast and you're killing people. It's a lot of the lyrics, "I will eat your flesh and I will drink your blood." He says that like 10 dozen times. But a cool thing about towards the end of "Aftermath" is there's a quick sample of "Pandemonium" from the first record. It's a quick little part. I thought that was pretty good. So it actually made me go, oh, I'm gonna go back and listen to that. So I did go back and listen to "Pandemonium," just the track, not the whole album. And I was like, this is such a good, like, fun song. Like, why couldn't there be any more like that on this album? That's the disappointing thing. But overall, still decent, way better than P.O.D. I'll probably give this another spin or two before the year's out to kind of, give it more of a solid chance. But I was expecting a little bit more. My hype levels, it didn't quite reach that.
That's
okay, and I think you would probably agree on that.
Yeah.
Moving on to "The Deceivers" by Dååth. This is our first time covering a Dååth album on the channel, but we've reacted to them twice. We reacted to the first two singles, which are the first two songs on this album, that being "No Rest, No End," featuring Spyro Dusias, and "Hex Unending," featuring Dan Sugarman of Ice Nine Kills.
We actually checked out "Hex Unending" and "Ascension."
It was Ascension.
It was Ascension.
You're right. Ascension
featuring
with
Dean Lamb
of Archspire. My bad on that. So yeah, it was track 2 and track 3. You're correct. So yeah. This album starts, and I'm immediately like, okay, these riffs are sick. Okay, this is sick. Okay, this orchestral integration is sick. Okay, the virtuosity on this album is insane. Especially the guitar playing. They got a lot of guitar features on here.
Every feature.
You got Per Nielsen.
Feature.
Yeah, you got Mark Holcomb from Periphery. You got Jeff Loomis on here.
Jeff Loomis is on this.
Jeff Loomis. Mick Gordon, I wasn't sure.
Mick Gordon.
Doom soundtrack.
He made the Doom soundtrack.
Yes, that's what I thought it was.
So I was wondering, like, did he produce that song or something? Like, what?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but that's really cool. But yeah, you can hear the features and you can hear the different styles of the features.
Yeah.
And that's really hard to do with guitar players. Vocals, you can hear the different vocal styles. When it comes to guitar, being able to discern that you're hearing a guitar player from a different band, that's rare, man. But almost every track that has a feature on here, you can tell it's a different person playing.
Especially, like, let's say you're someone who isn't into the bands that these features are from, right? Like, let's say you're not a Periphery guy, but you can hear the difference in sound from
like that section of the song just sounds so different than the rest of the songs. You know it's somebody else playing it.
Exactly.
That was amazing to me.
That's how a feature should be.
That's how a feature should be.
Take notes, P.O.D.
So, I was just liking a lot of the stuff that was on here. There's, like I said, I mentioned the orchestral stuff, the syncopation stuff. I was getting some Septic Flesh vibes. I was getting some Flesh God Apocalypse vibes, some Old Man's Child vibes, which was really sick. If you look at a song like Deserving of the Grave, which is the Jeff Loomis song, that one just gets really hype. Great double bass energy, and that intro to me was like very Old Man's Child. It's really cool. I like that blends right into the next track as well, the outro track. Goes on quite an adventure, lots of crazy soloing throughout. This album was just loaded with stuff.
Yeah, and it's 9 tracks.
It's 9 tracks, 43 minutes, which is great length, to be honest.
Yeah, it's kind of like the average kind of sweet spot length. Usually albums will be that length, and it's crazy that it's only 9 tracks for that too.
Yeah.
Like and nothing is like overly long, nothing is overly short. It kind of just hits that sweet spot.
Nothing's drawn out, yeah, and you're getting like all kinds of syncopation and even like Ascension, that drum intro on Ascension, so sick. Some rad blackened tremolo riffs here and there, like just loaded with stuff. And I feel like this is an album that's got high potential because the creativity bulbs are flashing on these guys as they're writing their stuff. And you can tell just by listening to it, you can tell that each member's like contributing their best. Their best work is going into this.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It was funny because it's like as soon as I started listening to this album, I was making so many notes. Like this was cool, that was cool, that was cool. What was that? What is this? There's a harpsichord in here. It's a 5-minute song that feels like it's got so much happening that it's like a 7-minute song. And like every song feels like that. They're average lengths, but they feel longer than that. And that's crazy. Hex Unending has this rhythmically offset intro, which was super duper cool. Was not expecting that. Super duper awesome. In some aspects overall from the album, I was kind of reminded of Scar Symmetry with some of the melodies and the riffs, which is funny because Per Nilsson is featured on the record.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's such a cool blend of like hard-hitting grooves, fast and crazy stuff, atmospheric stuff. Like it's got everything going all at once, and it doesn't feel like just stuff. It just feels like, whoa, what is this groove? This is heavy.
Yeah.
Oh, now they're doing this. This is super duper cool. Because there's a lot of crazy albums that is just kind of like constant stuff in your face.
Yeah.
This is more structured that way, and I love that. So it's like you listen to this album, you're like, wow, that just blew my mind. There's so much content in 9 songs. In the Silent Foray, which is the one with Per Nilsson on it, there's this spooky sounding swing section in the middle. Like, what was that? Like,
What was that?
you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
they got so much creativity for all these songs, and it's just, I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, so we're gonna take the week to unpack it because we're gonna review The Deceivers by Dååth, and we're gonna spin it as much as we possibly can for an entire week, and we'll be back next week to give you guys our full and final review of this album. But for now, we want you guys to leave your comments down below and let us know what you thought of these 3 albums. If you checked them out today, comment down below and let us know what you guys thought of them. And subscribe if you guys are new to the channel. I'm Vile Self.
I'm TV Fish.
I'll see you guys on the next one. Keep those heads banging.